The story opens with war veteran Ray Francis, who has just returned to his homeland after completing his final military deployment. Ray plans to leave the military to marry his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Kelly, a beautiful woman, is enjoying a day at the park. Ray suddenly appears behind her, surprising her with his unexpected early arrival, as she had been expecting him the following week. Overjoyed, Kelly embraces him, and without wasting time, Ray proposes to her with a ring. Taken aback yet ecstatic, Kelly immediately accepts his proposal. As the couple prepares to leave the park, Kelly realizes she has forgotten the book she was reading. Ray goes back to retrieve it, but their joyous moment quickly takes a dark turn. A luxury car pulls up beside them, and two men inside begin harassing Kelly. One of the men, Tim, steps out of the car and acts inappropriately, exposing himself to Kelly through her car window. Infuriated, Ray confronts the men and starts a fight. During the altercation, Tim pulls out a knife, but in the struggle, he ends up being fatally stabbed by his own weapon. Following the incident, Ray and Kelly consult a lawyer as Ray faces murder charges. The lawyer explains that Ray has two choices: plead guilty and serve a reduced sentence of 2 to 3 years, potentially being released after 18 months, or plead not guilty and risk a much longer sentence of 5 to 8 years. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Ray decides to plead guilty, opting for the shorter sentence. Meanwhile, the father of the deceased man, Harvey Thompson, is consumed with grief and anger over his son's death. Harvey, a man of influence, hires someone to investigate Ray's identity and gather information about the prison where he will be held. Harvey then visits Jack Morrison, the head of the prison, offering him a significant bribe in exchange for ensuring Ray never leaves prison alive. Jack agrees, planning to use the money to involve his subordinates in carrying out the sinister plot. The scene shifts to the prison as the new inmates, including Ray, arrive to begin their sentences. One of the guards, Rico, welcomes the prisoners and oversees their intake process, which includes a mandatory security check where they are ordered to strip. Rico begins to resent Ray, particularly when Ray defends a fellow inmate being forced to strip. From his first day in prison, Ray experiences physical aggression from Rico. Later, a guard named Williams escorts Ray to meet Jack Morrison. During their meeting, it's revealed that Ray served in the military for 12 years, including 4 years in Iraq, and was awarded a medal for bravery. Jack feigns kindness and instructs Williams to look after Ray. Williams then takes him to his cell and warns him about prison life. Within days, Ray begins to encounter hostility from some inmates, but also gains the support of a group led by Mazen. A confrontation between the two groups is narrowly avoided when Williams intervenes and orders them to disperse. Ray is assigned to work in the prison library, where he meets David, a senior inmate, who shows him how to organize the books. On his way back to his cell, Ray is provoked again, but manages to keep his composure. One night, while Ray is reading a diary in his cell, Rico and his accomplices raid his room. They discover a photo of Ray's girlfriend, which Rico mocks by licking and then tearing apart. Ray is furious, but unable to retaliate as he's restrained by two guards, Victor and Fox. Rico escalates the intimidation by ordering Ray to remove his shirt and threatening further harm, though Victor steps in to prevent things from going too far. Later, while Ray is showering, he is harassed by another inmate. A large prisoner named Hammer takes an interest in Ray and makes inappropriate advances. Ray responds by shoving Hammer away with a playful punch, but this only leads to more trouble when Rico arrives and beats him. Ray is dragged back to Jack's office, where he tries to justify his actions, explaining he was defending himself. Jack dismisses Ray's concerns and remarks that such behavior is common in the prison. When Ray continues to argue, he is beaten severely by the guards until Victor intervenes, warning them to stop before they kill him. At lunchtime, Ray meets up with other inmates in the library, including Jayde, an 18-year-old. While chatting with David about their pasts, Ray notices a convict he fought with early in his imprisonment. During their conversation, David reveals he won't ever be released because 15 years ago, he and his brother robbed an armored truck, killed 2 security guards and a police officer, and his brother died during the heist. David is the only one who knows where the stolen money is hidden, as it hasn't been recovered. Their conversation is interrupted when Rico enters and informs Ray he has a visitor, his girlfriend, Kelly. Ray smiles warmly at her, as is her first visit. However, the time together is cut short when Rico abruptly ends the visit and provokes Ray by suggesting he'd like to make a move on Kelly. Despite the provocation, Ray keeps his composure. Later, Ray joins Mazen and his gang for a card game. Impressed by Ray's resilience, Mazen offers him protection in prison. Meanwhile, Jayde is harassed by Hammer, a predatory inmate who previously tried to assault Ray. Hammer nearly attacks Jayde with a dumbbell, but Ray intervenes just in time. The commotion draws Williams, who stops the situation. Ray continues to face challenges. While cleaning the toilet, the inmate he previously fought confronts him for revenge. Ray easily defends himself, but Rico, as always, shows up as if monitoring Ray's every move. This time, Jack is with Rico. Jack, who has been bribed by Harvey for his own agenda, takes a bat and attacks Ray from behind. The next day, the 3 guards bribed by Jack are talking when Victor, one of them, announces he no longer wants to be involved and threatens to report their actions to higher authorities. After Victor leaves, Williams, the head guard, confronts the remaining 2 and reprimands them for assigning Ray to clean toilets when he was supposed to work in the library. Williams warns them not to make decisions without his approval. Rico and Fox report Victor's defection to Jack, who orders them to deal with him before he can expose their scheme. 2 guards enter a prisoner's cell to inspect his bed and discover a hidden sharp weapon. They order the prisoner to kneel and apologize before leaving. Later, the prisoner is assigned to clean the toilet, where he is horrified to find Victor's dead body. Shortly after, Rico and Fox arrive, revealing that the murder was premeditated. They accuse the prisoner, who had been caught with the weapon, of being the killer. During a leisure activity, Ray sits with David and questions him about Mazen. David explains that Mazen is a powerful figure in the prison, running a drug syndicate with his own gang. From a distance, Mazen's group notices their conversation and confronts Ray, warning him to be careful about his allegiances. Mazen's gang has a rival faction, intensifying the tension. While Ray and David are showering, Mazen's group suddenly attacks and kills a man who had previously fought with Ray in the toilet. The murdered man is revealed to be a member of Mazen's rival gang. Ray, wrongfully accused of the killing, approaches the rival gang to explain his innocence. He convinces them that Mazen's group is behind the murder. Meanwhile, an 18-year-old boy, Jayde, is being abused by Hammer in a secluded room. Hammer sharpens his sword menacingly, but Jayde ultimately fights back, killing Hammer with a screwdriver. Elsewhere, Ray's girlfriend, Kelly, comes to visit him after waiting 2 weeks. However, the corrupt guards subject her to humiliating treatment, forcing her to strip during a security check. Ray is enraged upon learning about this, but feels powerless to intervene. Ray is later summoned to Mazen's cell, where Mazen grows furious over Ray's refusal to join his gang. While Ray spends time with David, Rico and Fox drag him to the workshop under Mazen's orders. Jack, however, secretly opposes Mazen's actions and fears for Ray's safety. Mazen threatens to harm anyone close to Ray, including David and Kelly. When Rico attempts to injure Ray's hand, Ray loses his temper and fights back, injuring both guards. This incident results in Ray being confined to a dark isolation cell. Williams confronts Jack in his office, questioning why Ray was sent to the workshop. Jack denies involvement and asserts his authority as the prison's warden, leaving the situation unresolved. After weeks of being confined in an isolated cell and subjected to harsh treatment, Ray begins to struggle mentally. When he is finally released, he is escorted by a guard who isn't involved in any of Jack's schemes. Williams, the head guard, tries to learn why Ray has been targeted by so many in the prison, but Ray remains silent, unwilling to trust anyone. Williams reveals that, like Ray, he is an ex-soldier, hoping to connect with him. As Ray regains his strength, Mazen remains determined to retaliate and orders Jayde to attack him. However, Jayde, who feels indebted to Ray for his past help, refuses to follow through. Furious at the disobedience, Mazen turns on Jayde, leading to his tragic death. Distraught over the loss of his friend, Ray confronts Mazen's group in the yard. After defeating one of Mazen's men in a brief fight, Ray publicly criticizes Mazen for betraying his own people. His words gain the support of many inmates, and he challenges Mazen to a one-on-one confrontation. Jack, aware of the brewing conflict, instructs the guards to allow the fight. Ray, relying on his military background, gains the upper hand and subdues Mazen, nearly choking him unconscious. However, Ray refrains from delivering a fatal blow after seeing David signal him to stop. Moments later, Mazen attempts a sneak attack, but the leader of the rival gang intervenes, ultimately leading to Mazen's downfall. Following the altercation, Ray is summoned to Jack's office by Williams. Jack informs Ray that his prison sentence has been extended, taunting him with the news. Provoked, Ray lashes out verbally, causing Jack to inadvertently admit to being paid to keep Ray imprisoned. Unbeknownst to Jack, Williams and his team have recorded the confession. With solid evidence, Williams arrests Jack and the corrupt guards responsible for much of the misconduct in the prison. With the corrupt officials removed, Ray visits David, who is still recovering from the chaos. David shares the location of money he had hidden and encourages Ray to use it to build a better life. He also asks Ray to deliver some of it to his estranged daughter, whom he deeply regrets being unable to see. Ray is finally released from prison and bids farewell to Williams, who acknowledges Ray's resilience with a handshake. Outside, Ray reunites joyfully with his girlfriend, Kelly. Later, Ray visits David's daughter, handing her a portion of the money and urging her to reconnect with her father. the story ends with Williams overseeing the induction of new inmates. Among them is Harvey Thompson, a man whose actions and influence caused much of the strife within the prison.